The possible indictment of a former president is big news. And that former president has hyped his own arrest, which did not come on the day he chose, yesterday. Now, top outlets like, say, the New York Times are putting this story, still important, but below the fold today. A sign that the undeniably huge development will be huge if or when it comes, but it's not even the New York Times' top story as the world waits. I mention that because the paper still has several different stories and angles on this prospect today, including one with this remarkable lead. Reading from the Times, quote, Donald J. Trump claims he's ready for his perp walk. It draws on accounts that Trump is telling people he welcomes the idea of being paraded for any perp walk and is mulling whether he should smile, I should say, in his own style, and whether or how to brand any commotion when that day does come, if it comes. Now, legally, in New York, a perp walk is unlikely under standard procedure if the arraignment is cooperative. Now, Trump's been bracing for all this after decades of legal problems, from criminal investigations that date back to the 70s, clashes with the IRS and other regulators, his reliance on the infamous lawyer Roy Cohn, of course, his clashes with the DOJ as president. So there's a lot to choose from, and a lot of times that he has evaded the ultimate punishment. Now, the New York Times article also details some recent scenes at Mar-a-Lago to reinforce reporting that Trump seems actually significantly disconnected from the severity of his potential woes. The Times reports on a recent evening where Trump acted as DJ at a party with his personally curated Spotify playlists. Known favorites include the Rolling Stones and Phantom of the Opera. Now, the fact is, Donald Trump wouldn't really be the first DJ to try to rock a crowd while eyeing trouble with the law. But the larger point, according to his aides, is that he's gotten away so many times he might not understand that getting indicted criminally would be different, at least at the start of the process, than all those other times. He is also, meanwhile, trying to get his own fans and supporters to send him money based on the potential indictment and casting this as a branding opportunity, according to reporting. So as we look at all the aspects of this, we are thrilled to bring back a friend of the show you may recall from so many Trump-era scandals. Barbara Rez was a Trump org executive. Her most recent book is Tower of Lies, What My 18 Years Working with Donald Trump Reveals About Him, and she is a tried and true New Yorker. We are also joined by former Watergate prosecutor Nick Ackerman. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Barbara, he's talking about his perp walk, which may or may not happen, with his aides, and he wants to, quote, brand this. What do you see here?
Well, it's typical Donald Trump. He takes lemons and turns them into lemonade.
And can this become lemonade?
Yeah, I think so. From his point of view,
yeah,
yes,
how?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, he's got this. Look at me. I don't take any crap. I'll stand up to this guy. And my supporters know that I'm not guilty. And to be honest with you, I think he sort of doesn't believe that it's happening, or it's happening, but he doesn't believe that he is going to get hurt.
You think he's in a denial?
So it's kind of a denial. It's just this positive thinking thing that is, I mean, ever since I know him, it's always...
He believes in the power of positive thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the kids nowadays, they call that manifesting. Good.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they manifest it. If you believe it will come.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that he doesn't think that he's going to be, he probably acknowledges that he's going to be indicted, but he doesn't think he's going to be convicted.
One more question on the image of that before I bring in Nick. There are certain things that are harder to spin in life. It's certainly true in Donald Trump in business, in his media career, television, including NBC, ran The Apprentice for many years, and you knew him, as well as in politics. He grasped that in a way that other people didn't. People can debate the results of that and the harm potentially of that. But he did grasp that not everything they say is negative has to be negative.
Absolutely.
My question to you is, there are some things that are different. If you deal with a big enough scandal or crisis, if you deal with, for example, a legal crisis where you lose control, you're out of your own control, it's very hard to look, and I think Nick will speak to this next, very hard to look like you're powerful and in control when your literal liberty is at the control of, to some degree, the prosecutors in the pretrial period, and then ultimately a jury of your peers. Do you think he knows how to brand that?
Yeah, I think he's already done it. I've got the best lawyers. This is a witch hunt. It's politically motivated. Of course, I'm not guilty, and I won't be found guilty. That's the way he's treating it. It's not real. It's not, something that will come into fruition. He's not responsible.
And emotionally, do you think he'll be fine through this because it'll be like so many other things that he's clearly found his way through. I mean, there are people who would have gotten more panicked and stressed by things he was up against than him.
Yeah, well, I read something where they were saying, oh, he was always afraid of being arrested, and he's really afraid. I only saw him afraid once in my life. And
When was that?
When he was looking at a potential personal bankruptcy in the early 90s, when everything fell apart for him. And he was afraid of that. But I'm afraid of, I can't imagine him being afraid.
How did he act when he was afraid?
Quiet. He was pretty quiet. And
I don't understand. I haven't seen him quiet.
Well, he had this deal maker guy, Steve Bollenbeck, who did all the deals with the bank and all that stuff. It wasn't Trump, it was all this guy, Steve. And he let him run with it, and he listened to him, and he didn't contradict him.
Really? So you saw a deference that you never usually saw.
Yes.
Before I bring in Nick as well, I forgot to ask you, the Times says he's DJing Rolling Stones, Phantom of the Opera. Does that ring true to you?
I'll tell you something funny. Guns N' Roses was playing at the Plaza once, and Trump must have gotten wind of it. And there was a quote that he was playing, and he was in his limo with the windows open, blasting Guns N' Roses. I guarantee you that Trump had no idea in the world who Axl Rose is or what Guns N' Roses was. He just, he picked it up.
Just the vibe. Okay. Nick, your thoughts?
Well, I'm sure he wasn't playing Jailhouse Rock as a DJ the other night. That's for
Look
sure.
at this guy.
I love it.
I mean, look, this is serious. I mean, it's not just the indictment in New York. We're also talking about the indictment in Georgia, which is going to be a whole different level in terms of criminality.
And you think that could be coming? We'll put on the screen, Nick. There's several. You can walk us through.
Oh, I think it's going to be coming mid-April. What we didn't realize before, and I didn't, was that when the special grand jury came down, it was really right in the middle of when Fulton County had its 2 sitting grand juries in session. And the regular grand juries didn't start again until March 1st. So the DA in Fulton County really didn't have an opportunity to present until starting on March 1st. So it takes some time to put in this evidence and to educate a regular jury as to all of these facts that were found by the special grand jury.
And as we've told folks, you faced off against Richard Nixon. He had his appeals to the silent majority. He had attacks on the press just like Trump did. They're similar in some ways, different than others. When you've seen someone with a public following try to, as we said, brand this process, how do you think that works?
It didn't work very well for Richard Nixon. I mean, in the end, it was his closest supporters that showed up in the Oval Office, led by Barry Goldwater, who was the staunchest,
sort of say your branding efforts failed. I want to show you on the serious legal side what we did here. You mentioned the Georgia case. This was the first time one of Trump's Georgia lawyers has come on MSNBC and made his defense. This was last night. I have several pieces of it in kind of a 40-second highlight. I wanted to get your legal analysis. Let's take a look.
We became public when we heard from the foreperson. She kind of gave us a lens into what we were suspicious of, which was just a kind of a clown show in there.
Was it A, illegal, and B, wrong for him to try to steal the Georgia results after the state had been duly certified?
Our client did not break any law.
How is that not soliciting or conspiring fraud?
We are absolutely confident, having looked at the evidence, that our client has not violated any of those.
Do you acknowledge that Donald Trump lost Georgia?
Yeah, so Ari, I am not going to start getting into political statements.
But do you acknowledge that Donald Trump lost?
Exactly, but that's what I stay focused on.
Do you acknowledge that Donald Trump lost the Georgia election?
I am.
That's an easy one. Do you acknowledge that, Drew?
No.
Nick?
First of all, the idea that there was anything wrong with that special grand jury or with what Emily Kohrs said to the press is totally off base and totally wrong. She was supported by Judge McBurney, who is the presiding judge, who basically, when she was talking to the press, she was reading from the rules that Judge McBurney set down, what she had to say. She stuck to those rules, and she made it quite clear that she kept an open mind. She refused to even listen to any of the press reports about all of this during that time. In terms of whether Donald Trump did anything wrong, I mean, right from the get-go, he was lying both to the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, about the fact that he claimed that there was election fraud because
Right.
dead people
Do
voted.
you think a lawyer can speak to the results there, or is that, quote, political?
No, of course, that's what he's got to argue to a jury. He's somehow got to come up with some way to get around the fact that his client lied about